One of the biggest myths in professional wrestling is that winning the championship is the hard part. The chase, the moment, the confetti. Ah. But wrestling history tells us something different. Winning the big one is not the hard part. The chase creates excitement, but what a company does next determines whether momentum becomes an era or whether it fades into nostalgia. Back in episode 2 of our introductory videos, we talked about how a clear cut top guy in a career defining feud and a defining win usually leads to the hot company. And today we're going to ask the harder question: what does a company do after it gets everything that it's wanted? So, in the first segment today, we're going to talk about what WWE was like after the Cody chase. So, we're going to see what happens when you're turning a moment into momentum. So, Cody Rhodes was used as the anchor of WWE, quote unquote, the QB1. He didn't just become champion, he was crowned as the symbol, as the guy. Even though Roman Reigns is still the guy, Cody Rhodes was essentially crowned as the new guy. And I think that was one of the things that WWE did right. What they did after he won was they protected the moment. Cody was presented as the emotional center of the company. Roman's absence was treated as gravity, but not a loose thread. The bloodline fallout elevated multiple characters, not just one, to differing successes, obviously. And the title felt important because it wasn't just hot shotted. As we remember, Roman was champion for 4 years. He was champion for over 1,000 days, and they gave the belt to Cody. All that momentum, all of that heat, all of that excitement that was garnered in the Bloodline saga and the Roman Reigns title reign, all of that was handed to Cody. And initially, I believe they did well with it. However, right after winning the title, Cody was still with the Bloodline. He was teaming with Jay, so he was champion. Then became tag team champion. He was still doing Bloodline, war game things. That we had that whole situation with Brock. We're not even going. Momentum is not automatic, and WWE hesitated in a few key areas. We're just going to get back right on track because, oh my God. Leaning too hard on nostalgia beats, bringing back up Brock Lesnar, bringing back up the past. Often, WWE does that too much to the point where it's a detriment to the current roster that they have at their disposal. There's difficulty fully moving out of Roman's shadow. You can say that the moment was great, the momentum was not. So Cody was not able to actually capitalize on being the new number one guy because Roman is still that guy. Sorry. If Roman decided, okay, I'll be full time every week, every pay-per-view tomorrow, he would still be that guy. He earned it, honestly. And the last thing was there was inconsistent depth behind the main event scene. And this right here is the biggest talking point when it comes to WWE. There was a time where all of the emphasis was on Roman and nobody else. So the undergirding of the company was very shallow. And then after Cody, they did some work trying to do other things, but it was never anything so substantial that it created a turn point for momentum. Triple H can call this the Renaissance era all he wants. I don't care. The Renaissance era was born and died the same night that that Cody won the title for Roman, but you know, it is what it is. WWE did not lose their momentum. Let's just put that out there right now. WWE didn't lose their momentum, but they certainly slowed it down substantially. Okay, they slowed it down very, 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 very much. AEW after Hangman won the title, we can see that they're working hard to build an era in real time. Hangman's win was directional. His title win wasn't just emotional, it was directional. What does that mean? They didn't crown him because he was the strongest. They crowned him because he represented who AEW was working to grow into. He represented the growth, the vulnerability, and the accountability that is AEW after years of not, I won't say wallowing in self-pity or anything like that, because it was never anything that bad, but they definitely never capitalized on the things that they had at their disposal for whatever reason. You could say injuries, you could say the whole brawl out, brawl in situation with Punk and all those things, having him wrapped up in the world title, the injuries, everything that can go with that. We understand what happened, but we also understand that AEW did not capitalize or pivot the best. I think that's a very fair judgment and assumption to make. They didn't pivot as well as they could have, or as well as we think they could have. Like I said, a lot of us would not know the ins and outs of things, but I know as a fan, there were some people that I would have made world champion, or that I would have put focused on, or that I would have told great storylines throughout 2022, throughout 2023, throughout 2024. But it took Hangman in 2025, that culmination of his redemption arc, to really say, okay, AEW has righted the ship, and they're diligently trying to make sure that they're moving in the right direction. You know what I'm saying? So, like, AEW, what they've done so far, they didn't reset the story after the win. That I really like. They didn't reset it. Yes, he and Mox I believe they had one more match. But the story didn't reset, it transitioned. So it went from the ops being the friends of Hangman helping him get the title to now these are his biggest ops. Like, the story progressed in a natural way, which is all something that a lot of big moments lose out after the fact, as far as that building of momentum, because if you don't have the right story to continue building off of what you've been doing, whether it is continued with the same people or whether it is complemented off of that, you have to do something that ties back to the history of the chase, because everything should be about the chase and about the winning and the defending. But as a babyface, the chase is the hardest part, is the most exciting part. So anything you could do to call back to the chase, meaning, hey, you guys were helping me chase the title, now you're jealous and you're upset, so instead of chasing, now you're the chasers and you're angry, I'm the champion. It is we've turned things on their head. That is something that is a great callback that would allow momentum to maintain and to grow. The second thing they did was they allowed Hangman to remain a vulnerable champion. So, like, he was a big bad, but people can beat up Hangman. He's gonna get back up. That's who he is. That's cowboy shit right there. But he's not invincible. He's not somebody that, he comes out and we understand he's finna just, clear house. Yeah, he's gonna fight, but he can also get beat up, and that's something that they've never changed, and I love that. And 3, they kept Jon Moxley and the Death Riders as lingering consequences at the beginning, but they've also shifted them away from the world title picture as well, continuing that it's not a reset, but is a transition. So you still had them as a strong presence, but Hangman tagged off to Darby, and Darby has continued that on, you could say, for too long at this point. It's the first of the year, and he's going after the Death Riders. Hopefully that means Pac becomes the new leader and they really do kick out Jon Moxley. But I'm done with that. They could have talked about momentum lost. But we'll move on from there. Hangman didn't defeat the evil of the company. He survived it, and that matters. So what happens is, when you defeat the big bad goes away. The big bad no longer has power. What do you do with the big bad after that? But surviving, that means that it was a threat that you had to dig deeper inside of you to overcome, which means the threat is still there because it takes more than the normal to do something with them. So the threat still remains. It makes you feel bigger, badder, stronger because you were able to overcome them. That's a great thing. That is great storytelling. And they did that with Hangman. What AEW needs to avoid is thinking that they can't lose their momentum, because momentum is fragile. If anybody can understand that now after all of these years, it should be AEW, that they should understand taking care of the moment and taking care of the momentum after the moment, because it is very fragile. AEW must also avoid overexposing Hangman and the main event scene. So keep Hangman as your main character, but I love that they've brought in MJF. I love that they brought in Omega. I love that they're still keeping Joe and Swerve in the main event scene as well. So what that does is it bolsters up the characters that everybody's able to play off of, making this a bigger ensemble. But Hangman is still very much a focal point, very much a central character. So what that does is it keeps him from being overexposed, keeps him from having to be repetitious. I think that's what happened with MJF during his title run in what was it, 24? No, his title run in 23. That whole year, because he got it at the end of 22. So that whole year, by a certain point, it got very repetitious. He's our scumbag. You're our scumbag. I'm your scumbag. Yeah, bye. It got very repetitious. He got overexposed. Not necessarily just his fault. It is what it is. So you can't do that with Hangman, and you can't do that with anybody in your world title picture, in your main event scene. You should expose them a great amount, but you should balance the exposure amongst them so that no one becomes like that. That's what I loved about the Attitude Era, and I believe that AEW is getting ready to come into their own Attitude-esque era, where they have a lot of characters in the main event scene that can carry main event matches, that can carry title matches, but can also carry great, deep psychological stories. So with that, I love that for Hangman and for the rest of the main event scene. They have to let violence replace narrative clarity, forgetting to elevate. What was I saying here? You can't overexpose Hangman, right? You can't let violence replace narrative clarity. You can't allow that to happen. So what does that mean? What that means is when it's time for you to actually tell the story, don't just put people in a match and say, hey, go beat each other up. Let the match be the culmination of what has been told between two performers. Don't just lean on good match chemistry. Let's get them in the ring. Let's get them doing promo exchanges. Let's get the camera in front of them. Let's let their face tell a story. Let's let their body language tell a story. What's happening with the Don Callis family, Takeshita, going against Okada. All of the body language and the facial expressions that led up to them finally going one-on-one, even after their triple threat match, finally being able to say, I don't like you, you don't like me, let's go at it. And all of the things leading up to that was great storytelling beats. Do more of that. You don't always have to be violent to tell the story. You don't have to throw punches all the time to tell the story. Let your actions show in other ways. Do not forget to elevate the tier beneath the champion. So once you have this great main event scene, let's also do what we can to undergird the mid card. You make things a little more complicated when you separate the unified title and back into the Atlantic. What is it called? The international title and the continental title. So now you got Okada over here, you got Moxley over there. You got Ricochet with his title. You got Mark Briscoe with his title. You got the tag titles. You got the trios titles. You got the women's world title, the women's TBS title, and the tag titles. You got a lot of titles going on. And that's just an AEW. You're not going to talk about other companies because... But you have something interesting there where you have a main event guy in Jon Moxley, a main event guy in Okada, not in the main event scene, where if you told it right, you could be elevating a lot of mid-card guys to upper mid-card by being in the mix with those guys. You can make Mark Briscoe's title be a very specific type of title, not on the level of everything else, but let it mean something for its own division. But do what you can to bolster it up. No repetitious matches. If you do something for the Continental title this week, do something for the TNT title the week after. or do something for the international title of the week after. Do something where it's constantly rotating. There's constant, even exposure, but not overexposure for anybody. Because what happens is a hot company doesn't rely on one star. It relies on an ecosystem. And that's where I think WWE failed with Cody, and that's where I think AEW can succeed with Hangman and post the Hangman title run, with MJF now being that guy. Like, MJF can be that guy where you can be the star, but having an ecosystem around him makes him and everybody better. And that's for dang sure. That's for dang sure. WWE and AEW, they couldn't be more different at this point in their tenures. One is a global machine built on name recognition and stability. The other is a promotion built on risk and establishing identity. So with all of those things in mind, they're still facing the same kind of test, and that is, how do you turn a perfect moment into a lasting era? Cody was the culmination of a legacy, and Hangman is the evolution of an identity. Very different paths, very different stories, but the same pressure to nail the win, to nail the moment, and to build momentum into something greater. That is something that both companies have to really learn how to do, and both companies have to really learn how to perfect. Because wrestling history is very unforgiving. We've seen stuff like this happen before. You had Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 14. You had John Cena and Batista at WrestleMania 21. You had Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30. Seth Rollins at WrestleMania 31. If the champions are not booked properly, are not booked strong, if the people around them are not booked properly or booked strong enough, the champions don't last, the moment doesn't last, and the momentum certainly cannot last. So it takes real good booking decisions from those that have the pen, and it really takes some type of sacrifice from the performers themselves, which is also something that a lot of performers just aren't willing to do sometimes. They're not willing to take a little bit less in order to make sure that the ecosystem feeds better. And, I'm not always talking about money. I'm always for anybody that's putting their life and body on the line should get paid whatever, the going rate for that is. However, I may not need your character to be so prominent and dominant in the on screen time in order for everybody else to be, productive, and everybody else to be important overall. The better AEW is going to do is when everybody feels important when they come on the screen. In the Attitude Era, everybody may not have felt important when they came on the screen, but you believe that what they were getting ready to do had more stakes than just, it is what it is. You were actually excited to see what was going to happen, whether it was the undercard with the light heavyweight division and the cruiserweight division in WCW, or it was the tag team division, the Dudleys, or Harlem Heat, the Steiner Brothers, Hardys, blah, 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 fill in the blank. There was things to look at and be excited about. There were actual stories being told. Like, AEW has FTR telling amazing tag team stories. Like, we're the best, and we're going to prove it. And we're going to prove it however we need to do it, whether we need to intimidate your grandma, whether we need to beat you to a bloody pulp. We'll do whatever we have to do to prove and to remain the best. That is incredible character work that you can tell incredible stories around. So it just takes a little effort. It takes a little thought, and it takes believing that it's more than just name recognition. It is more than just what happens when the bell rings. It's all of that. You should be able to have stars with name recognition that are giving incredible promos, that are having incredible facial expressions and body reactions, and that are having incredible matches. And when all of those things can line up on a consistent basis, you're going to have a hot company that continues to gain momentum. And the more people that you can recognize that have incredible matches, that are killing it in the promos and in the build-ups and in the storytelling, the better the ecosystem for the company, for the promotion is going to be. So that's what everybody needs to get on the same page about, especially in AEW right now, where you have a lot of momentum going into the new year. You have a new world champion. You have a new bolstered up main event scene. Your tag team scene is great. You have a new story of redemption for Moxley. You have Swerve and Hangman doing this will they won't they dance. We'll see what's going to happen with that, and I'm excited to see how AEW builds on the momentum that they've been garnering, and to see what they do with it and how they capitalize on it. So we'll see how that goes. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of this 3-part introduction videos. Moving forward, we're going to be having AEW Dynamite and Collision reviews. We're going to be having discussions about current events as they come up. And we're just going to try to tap into the IWC zeitgeist and create a presence out here. This is Wrestling's New Kid. Please like, please share, please hype, please subscribe. Join us on this journey. We don't know what's going to come out of this, but we as fans deserve to have our voice heard, and deserve to have our opinions at least be voiced. Whether they listen to it and implement it, that's up to them. But the best companies at least listen to their fans a little bit, especially those that are paying customers like myself. I pay for every pay-per-view. Whenever they come to my city, I pay for live tickets to be there. So I'm gonna be loudest because I'm also in the room, not just online. So if you want to be a part of this discussion in this Discord with me, join in. Wrestling's New Kid podcast channel on YouTube. We'll see about expanding elsewhere, but we're gonna rest and rule on YouTube right now. Like I said, like, share, subscribe, join us, leave a comment. I love to engage with you, and we appreciate you. Have a good time.